Here now to discuss further, he represents Georgia's 9th Congressional District, Congressman Andrew Clyde. Congressman, thanks for coming on the program. Right off the bat, your first assessment of what is happening and how this administration just screwed this one up.
Well, thank you for having me this afternoon. Well, first, I'll tell you that this is the worst foreign policy failure of our lifetime.
Yes.
It is just heartbreaking to see the crisis that we're in now in Afghanistan. You know, we had a stable country with 2,500 military there, and now we have 3 times that number, and we have just the airport under control, and that's it. That is all we've got. You know, and President Biden is trying to blame President Trump, the Trump administration, for this, saying that this was the Trump administration's plan. What he is neglecting to tell the American people, that I want the American people to know, is that there were conditions and contingencies that President Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had installed in this plan that Biden stripped from it. You know, some of those contingencies were cut ties with al-Qaeda, and that never happened. They were not allowed to attack any of the provincial cities or Kabul. That didn't happen. And when the Taliban came in and they did something wrong, they broke any part of those conditions or contingencies, we came in and we imposed enormous cost on them. We backed up the Afghan military and they took them to task. And then we called them up and said, hey, you broke the conditions, we beat the living daylights out of you. You do it again, I'm going to do it again.
Yes.
And that's
Thank you, Congressman. I know. We had, and I see you're fired up, so am I. We had General Kellogg on, I think Monday or Tuesday in the program, and he said, I was in the room when President Trump was on the phone with the head of the Taliban, and he told him, you will meet these conditions as we leave, or don't forget, I know where you live, I know where you sleep. That's the kind of commander-in-chief we need right now, because if we had him in and they weren't meeting these conditions as they were taking over these provincial areas, as you said, those provinces, and then went into Kabul, it never would have happened, because we would have bombed the hell out of them and they would have stopped, because they know we had a commander-in-chief at one point that wouldn't put up with their BS. Now they have one they know is asleep at the wheel and will roll over. And that's why they're doing whatever the hell they want in this country, meaning Afghanistan, because we got a commander-in-chief who's asleep at the wheel. Period.
That's exactly correct. President Trump gave our military great clarity. They had rules of engagement that they knew what to do. But now we don't. President Biden simply is, like you said, asleep at the wheel. In his basement, he's clueless. And honestly, I'm very, very disappointed in the very top brass of our military as well.
Oh, me too.
I'm disappointed in Secretary of Defense Austin, and I'm very disappointed in the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Milley.
Oh, don't get me started.
They knew what was going on. And to not push back against such a tragic plan or lack of a plan that had no ability to flex with what was going on the ground was just inexcusable. So, you know, we are going to pay a huge price for this. Yeah. And this is going to last many, many years down the road, because we now have allies that can't trust us. Oh,
it's going to, and there's so much more to that too then, Congressman. What about all of our enemies that are in the region that are going to be able to now use Afghanistan and the Taliban? You've got China. They were the first ones on Monday to say, we recognize the Taliban as the rulers of Afghanistan, because China wants to get in there, get in the drug trade, get in the mineral trade, and use them. You got Russia already talking to them about finishing that pipeline they wanted to go across Afghanistan, so they'll get oil independence. Well, our country had it, but we gave that away. Thanks, Joe Biden. And then you've got Iran, who, I mean, this is just going to be a cesspool of terror and hate. And the Middle East seemed to be the last 2-3 years of the Trump presidency becoming somewhat peaceful. And now it's all blown up in our face. Congressman, real quick, you wrote a letter, you and several other, I believe, House Republicans, and you sent it up. You also wrote an op-ed about Afghanistan. But talk about the letter that you're demanding some oversight and some transparency. Because remember, Biden told the nation he'd be the most transparent administration in history.
And that is exactly what has not happened. So we wrote this letter and we demanded that we have committee hearings. I'm on oversight. I'm on Homeland Security. We also have foreign affairs and House Armed Services. Those four committees right there are the committees of jurisdiction, and we must have oversight hearings to see what on earth went wrong, because we can never allow this to happen again. We have been so embarrassed across the world. Even the British Parliament has condemned our president for his complete lack of leadership. This is so totally embarrassing.
Yeah, and they were bragging him up at the G7 a couple of months ago. Remember, Congressman? They were like, "Oh, breath of fresh air," Boris said. And they were like, French's president, "Oh, so great. Nice to have him." Yeah, now he screwed the pooch. Now you're not singing his praises. Out of time, but can you do us all a favor? Can you Republicans demand that the Speaker call you guys back? I know you're on break, but we can't get anything done unless Congress is in session, right? So we got to get you back to D.C. We got to get you guys working, and the American people need answers on what happened. Who screwed up here?
We are coming back on the 23rd, next Monday, but it's not to address this, according to Speaker Pelosi. It's to address the $3.5 billion and the $1.2 billion infrastructure deals and budget reconciliation. That is not what we need to be looking at right now. We need to be looking at Afghanistan and the absolute failure of leadership of the Biden administration. But you know what? Nancy Pelosi, she'll cover for him.
Yeah, she just wants to spend our money in all the wrong ways. Also, Congressman, thank you for your service. I know you're a vet like myself, and anybody that has served, this is just disgusting to see what happens after we spend 20 years, trillions of dollars, thousands of lives, tens of thousands of lives affected, PTSD for tens of thousands more. It goes on and on. Andrew Clyde, representing Georgia's 9th. Thank you for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Before we head to break, a president who you heard me and the congressman talk about, who I truly believe would not have allowed this to happen if he were still in office. 45, Donald J. Trump, releasing a statement slamming what's happening in Afghanistan and Biden's major failure. Here's part of that statement. First, you get all the American citizens out. Then you bring all the equipment out. Then you bomb the bases into smithereens. Then you bring out the military. You don't do it in reverse order like Biden and our woke generals did. No chaos, no death. They wouldn't even know we left. That sounds like a plan. But Biden didn't sure have one, did he?